Today, we're going to be interactive uh, because my focus right now is for all of you to finish the Rust project that I gave you the last time. But here's sorry. Let me put my phone in silence. Here's a tip that I can give you. Let me share my screen. Okay, let me show my screen. Okay, so the project that I gave you is very similar to, let me show you. It's very similar to this project on lesson 4. So if you manage to go through this mini manager, you go through this project here and you try to understand, you make some changes, and you even do the homework challenge. You add the method to search employee by name. Then you'll be able to do that project. So let's check the project itself. So this is a project, as you can see. So you're going to be using tracks, vectors for collection, modules, but you don't really have to use modules because it's a small project. But you can use it for the sake of knowing how it works. When you look at here, it's pretty much similar to this project. Here at employee, we adding employee, we're listing the employee. We're also creating an employee manager. So here you create a new book, add a new book. You have a function that manages the bookstore, like the add book, list book, find book. So using vectors to find the book. And you can see here the book has an ID. So each book have an ID. So you search it by the ID to find the book. And this is an extra thing that you can add. So this is something that you can use to follow. But today, I wanted us to also play around with a simple idea together, just to get our hands dirty. So this is what we're gonna be doing. Let me share this. So we're just going to create a simple banking system, and the goal is to build a small command line banking system where users can create an account, deposit money, withdraw money, check balance, and exit the program. We're going to be using extract method and loops. And we might also add some extra stuff if we have time. So this is the idea. So let's start our project. So cargo, I'm gonna call it bank, cargo new bank. Yes. Now let's go in the folder. Okay, let's wait a little bit for the project to open. And we're going to take everything that is here so that we can follow what to do. Let me see if there's anybody. All right, so you have our project, bank project, and we have the source. We only have main here. It's still loading. Okay. So now what we're gonna do here is just paste all the instructions. So we create an account. Second, we deposit. We check balance, and we exit page program. So now you see here the fourth instruction is we need to also be able to exit the program. So in order to do this, we need to figure a way of inputting. So a user has to input a number. For example, if I input number 1, then I must create an account. If I input number 2, then there must be a function that will take the deposit money. And then if I select option 3, it will withdraw money. Option 4, let me add another one. Okay. And so instead of check balance, let's just say view account details. So basically, this is going to be a display function. And if I select option 3, then it's going to display the details of the account owner. And then there's an exit. It's the number where I press, and then it's going to exit the program, and the program is stop running. Another thing also we have to notice, since we're dealing with options like option 1, option 2, it means that we're going to have a loop as well. So a loop is going to continually run and wait for the options that we're going to input. And according to those inputs, it's going to display, for example, you want to create an account, or you want to deposit money, you want to withdraw money. So it's up to you to do what you want to do. So this is the main idea of what you want to create. So let's start with, so Regina, what do you think is the first thing that we should do before we even go to create the main function, before we even have the implementation, the method, before you have the method? What's the first thing? Because here we're dealing with a user who probably has his name, account number, balance, and so on and so forth. So what's the first thing that you have to create? You can tap out if you have network problems. So
can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was saying that
can you repeat the question?
we want to create a function. Okay, before we even start creating functions, what's the first thing that we have to create before we create function? What's the first code that we have to create? And the answer is a struct, because the struct is based on the struct. That's when we're going to implement it, because the implementation of the struct can come before the struct. So there has to be a struct, and let's call it client. And note that it started with a capital letter. This is just the way, like the rules of how to write clean code in Rust. When you're writing a struct, make sure that the struct started with a capital letter. If I started with a small letter, then it's giving me a warning. Your code is still going to work. But when it comes to structures in Rust, you always have to start with capital letter. So it's going to be Apple camel case. As you can see, it's written structure client should have Apple camel case. You can see the way Apple camel case is written. You see the U is capital letter, the C is capital letter, and the other C is a capital letter. So it's like a camel. So every first letter of the alphabet of the words of your struct must be a capital letter. This is for clean code sake. So now that you have client, what are some of the properties of a client? You are in the bank. So what are some of the information as a person in the bank should have? A user in the bank, what sort of information do you have? Name, yes, you have a name. And ID, yes, we can call it, okay, we can call it ID. And balance, right? And they can also be account name. But for just to make this thing short, we don't want to go long because you can also put the account name. Let's just change the ID into an account name, account number. So that's going to be like the private key of everything. So just to keep it simple, so I'm just gonna make it the first okay, property. So if the account number, we have name, and then we have balance. So here, what is missing here? Like after account number, there's something that I have to put here, which are the data types, right? So for account number, which data type can we put? Which data type? Which data type for account number? Okay, so for account number, we can use a string. We can also use a number. We can use a U32 unsigned number. It's up to us, but let's just use a number. And don't forget a comma. And name, you know, name is simple. So name, what's the data type for name? Data type for name, string. So we have string, and we have balance. Okay, you gotta answer this one. Which data type is balance? Are you there, Regina? Thumbs up if you're here. Okay, I'm saying that what do you think is gonna be the data type for balance? What's the data type? For the account number, we use the U32, which is a integer, unsigned integer. For name, we use string, floating point. Yes, but how do you call a floating point in Rust? So what's the What's the floating point? Yes, F64. Thank you. Okay, so you have that sorted. And now the second thing that we're going to be doing is, now that you have this, we have the struct, now we have to implement, we have to now give some implementation of the struct. So what exactly is going to do? And under the implementation of the struct, that's when there's going to be all these functions. There's going to be a function to create an account. There's going to be a function to deposit money, a function to withdraw money, view account details, and exit the program. So in total, there will be 5 functions. So each of the function will go with a number, like number 1. No, we're not going to use number 1. So we're going to have 4. We're going to have a function to create an account, and then we're going to have 4 numbers, like based on that account that we created. Number 1 will be to deposit money in that account. Number 2, to withdraw money. Number 3, to view the account detail. And then number 4, to exit. All right, so do you know how to write an implementation? Thumbs up if you know how to do it. Thumbs up if you know how to create an implementation of a struct. Okay, so to write, okay, thank you. So to write an implementation is basically you write the IMPL and then make sure it has the same name as what you are trying to implement. In this case, we're trying to implement this struct. So now here, now we can now get our hands dirty. We're going to write the 4 different functions. So we're starting with the first function. It's going to be function new. So this is just gonna create. This is gonna use this to create an account, and then it's gonna be function deposit. No, not capital letter. And you have to also notice with function, it's small letters. Small letters to keep the code clean and consistent. And then we have function withdraw. And then we have function display. And then, last but not last, we have function exit. Now we don't have to have a function exit because we're gonna be using a loop, right? Let's just make sure they didn't ask the question, did not ask us to use a function to exit. Okay, you don't have to have a function for that. All right, so we're going to have 4 functions. So now the first one, we are creating a new account, right? So there's 2 ways of doing that. We can either create a function that returns, we create a new account and then we return that account. So basically, when we using the main code of section of the code, we'll be able to just call it if you want to print it, because this function is just going to return it. The second way of doing it is we're not going to return anything. We're just going to be printing out. So whenever we use the function on the main, it's just going to print out whatever we printed out on the function. I don't know if it makes sense. So in this function, we'll do a couple of stuff here, and then at the end, we're just gonna say print. Since we are creating a new client, you can see like client whatever got created, something like that. Client with the name of whatever got created. So that's the plan. So we're going to do it that way. We're not going to return anything. We're just going to print out. All right. So now we want to create a client. What do we put inside this parameter? That's a question for you. What are we going to put in new? We want to create a client that has all this stuff here. So here, what are we going to put? You can unmute yourself, or if you're stable, you can unmute yourself to make it easier.
Account number, the
Oh,
account
yes,
number.
correct. So basically, we're going to put everything that is here, right?
Yes.
So everything that is here, yes. It's going to be account number. And we also have to specify that it's a U32, right? So it's a U32. And we also have to put the name. The name is a string. But one thing you have to notice is we don't have to put a balance now, because the balance is, we can put it, but it's up to us. We can also add balance or whatever. Maybe, no, we're going to add balance or not. But since the balance is empty, we don't have to put balance in the parameter. We can just do, like as per usual, we add values in the struct. So account number will just stay account number, which is the account number that's specified here. And then the name is just gonna stay name. And then balance is gonna be 0.0 since we dealing with floating point. So balance is just gonna be 0.0. So far, does it make sense? Because now this function will just add that in the client. And then secondly, now we going to print out as we plan, because we're not returning anything, but we want the users to see something. But it's not even important. We don't even have to do that, but you don't have to do that. Actually, let's not do it. Let's just print out stuff when we deposit. So when you create an account, it does not display anything, but if you deposit, it tells you that you have deposited this amount and your new balance is this. If you withdraw, you have withdrawn this amount and your balance is this. And you can also display everything at the end. So the first thing now, we're just gonna continue with deposit. So now in deposit, as a person who's you are coding this program, what are you gonna put in the parameter, in the deposit parameter? What goes in there? Course, it is the amount, because you need to have an amount that you need to deposit. So the parameter has to have an amount. So the amount, which is a floating point. So we're gonna have an amount. But note that we also have to tell the compiler that here we are dealing with a specific client, the client that we are currently working on. So how do we specify that we're working with this specific client? Is by using self, right? We're using self. So you are borrowing. So we're using self. So this just tells us that we are dealing with this specific client that we're dealing with right now. But there's something that is missing. I don't know if you can check. There's something that is wrong here. Like, if you know that there's something wrong, if you know it, just spit it out. Like, thumbs up if you notice something wrong here. What is it? Because here we are depositing and we're dealing with a specific client. So of course, we gotta specify that it's mutable. Because we are making some changes in the deposit amount, in the balance. So we have to specify that this is mutable. And then what goes next is simple mathematics. Because we are depositing, so we have to add the amount to the current amount. So how do we call the current amount? Is by self, and then balance. So this will take the current object that we're dealing with, the current client that we're dealing with, and then it's going to check at the balance. So if the balance is 0, it's 0. So currently, you know, the first time obviously is going to be 0, and we're just going to add the balance. So balance is either going to do this, going to be self.balance plus amount. So this is one way of doing it, because so the new balance will be the current balance, self-balance, plus amount. Or we do this. The simplest way of doing it is just plus equal. So plus, when you write it like that, I don't know if you're familiar with other programming language, it simply means that you are adding this to that. So now that we have done that, now we're just gonna simply just print out what we have done. Let me check the time. Okay, we're halfway there. So we're just gonna print out deposited, let's use dollars. Deposited, for example, $50. The new balance is, then we use another dollar sign. Okay, and here we're going to have two things. We're going to have two things here. So now I'm asking to yourself, what are we going to put here? What are we going to print? Because we want to print. Oh, I'm not giving it away. So what do we put here?
Amount,
Okay,
self-balance.
correct. So amount and comma, and then self-balance. Then we, of course, since we are not returning anything, we're just going to print out, we put a comma. I hope it makes sense. Because remember, when we return something, if maybe we implemented it a little bit differently and we were returning the amount, then here we will need use a semicolon. So now we sorted with this first thing here. Now we go to withdraw. And withdraw is simple. We can just copy and paste. We're just working opposite. We're just working opposite. We're not adding here, we're just subtracting. So we're just going to take this. You just copy and paste. Put it here. And we're also going to paste this. We're just going to make some few changes. So let me copy that. So here, the only change will be self balance will be equal to self dot balance minus amount. And so now deposit, now we'll see withdrew that amount, and then the new balance is whatever. And of course, later on, we might come back here and put some error message, like we'll say if the withdrawing amount is greater than self balance, then print out this and that. Else do such and such. So this is pretty much simple. We will get back to that later. Now the last function, we're going to display. Remember, there's two ways of displaying. The first way of displaying is with displaying the whole struct. So we're gonna use something like, let me just print them. We're gonna use something like that. If you can remember, we'll use something like that, which is going to print out, instead of using this, we use this, and then we call in the whole self. So the whole self is going to be printed out, and something like that. But if you use it this way, then here we have to do the derived debug, if you can remember. Let me, so derive debug. So I don't know if you can remember. If we want to implement it that way, we must use derive debug, or else we're going to be having errors at the end. But we're not gonna be using it. We're not gonna do it that way, because I wanna print out according to what I want. I don't want it to look like an object with curly bracket and so on. So I'm not gonna use this. I'm just going to print out what's going on here. Did I mess up somewhere? I don't like when I make some changes and then what did I do? I don't know what I did. Oh, I forgot a comma there. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Okay, display. We're just going to print out the way we want to print out. So we're gonna say, so we want to display client, the client's name. Okay, no, not client. Account number, and client name, and balance. We put it in dollars. So now that we've done that, it probably makes sense that we're just gonna do what we've been doing before, so nothing hectic. So we're calling the self account, so it's gonna be the self dot account number. I don't know why it's not It's not helping me here. Oh, I forgot. There's something I have to also specify. Here we're dealing with self. Okay. So we have self. Second is gonna be self name. And then the third one is going to be self.balance. All right. So far, does it make sense? Then thumbs up if it makes sense. Okay, thank you. So we basically finish all the functions. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky. I don't know if you have oh, time is going. Time is going. Okay, let's see what we can do, because there's also something else I want to show you before we go. Something that I haven't mentioned, but let's see how it goes. If when we left with 10 minutes, I'm just gonna jump into doing whatever. So here in the main, we're going to call a client. We're gonna create a client, and remember, so the client is gonna be client 1 equal client new, because now we want to create a client. So we're looking at here, we want to add values here. So in order to do that, we have to do client new. And oh my goodness. And the first thing you can do here, we putting the account number. We just create an account number and the name. So let's call it James. So now we've created an account. This is just a simple way of doing that. So imagine if we were using different account name, maybe we don't want to only use one account, then we can modify our code and now include vectors. So we're just going to push a client vector of a specific client into the whole. Maybe we're going to have a client vector where we insert client. But in this case, we're not using a vector. We're just dealing with one client, just for it to be a bit simple and easier to understand. So now that we have created a client, now we want to be able to do all this. We want to be able to deposit, withdraw, and display any thing like based on this specific client. Like I say, we're going to be using a loop. And the reason we're going to use a loop is because you want to be able to select numbers. And then each of these numbers will be like basically be choices. So there'll be choices like, let me just print out here. So let's be using this because we want to have a new line after we're printing. So this backslash and n simply means new line. So we're gonna have deposit. One will be for deposit, and 2 will be for withdraw, and 3 will be for display. We also want to close the program, so 4 will be exit. Okay, so these are going to be the following option that we have. And then since you want to deal with input, I don't know if you've coded maybe in JavaScript. I mean, maybe Java, JavaScript, Python. You import libraries. Also here, when you dealing with input output, you import the input output from the standard library. this will enable you to insert read from the user input. So now that we have that sorted, we're now going to check which choices we're gonna be adding. So this was going to be printed out first, and then you have to now get the user input. We're going to call it a choice, and then it's going to be in string format. So we're getting a string of whatever choice that we're getting. So this is how you do it. So this just tells us, so we create a variable called choice that's going to be a string, and we're going to then call the input output to get whatever we have inputted. So let's say you write 1, so this is going to be 1, the choice is going to be 1, and then there's going to be the reader, the input reader is going to read whatever you've typed there after pressing enter. So this is how we do it. And then we're reading the line, and we're getting the choice. Because the choice is mutable, so we're gonna put the mute sign there, and we unwrap it. So this is the command that we use to read what is there. And after that, we have read. Now we're gonna do if and else. So if choice is equal to 1, we're going to print. First, we're going to print the amount that we want to enter, print amount, and then the user now is going to enter the amount. So there's going to be another input output that we're going to be using. We're going to call it input. So this is going to get the second input from the user. So we're just following this just like we did it here. So it's going to be string, it's going to be new, and we're then going to read whatever is there. And we're going to read the line. So we're just following what we did. Of course, we mute input dot unwrap. Okay, so now we've gotten this input, the second input that the user has put. So this is going to be the amount, and we're going to read that. And after reading that, we add it to the deposit. So the client now is going to deposit when I use the deposit function. And here's the tricky part. One thing that we forgot When you take the choice, you have to trim it, or else you're gonna get the error. So remove all the spaces using the trim method to do that. And also here, we're also going to trim the input like that. So it's going to be the input, which is the amount that we got. We trim it, remove all the spaces, and then here we are converting it to a floating point. Unwrap or 0.0. So this converts it to a floating point. So yeah, that's what you're gonna be doing for the first choice. And now we're just going to copy this to save time. Else if, do that. Else if, and then there's gonna be another else if. So option 1, option 2, option 3. And then the last one is going to be break. Else break. So this one will, else if it's option 4, sorry, I have to say if choice is option 4, break. For break. So now we're gonna have option 4, we're going to break. So now, so far, I hope I make sense, but I have to change these two here. So the first one was just to deposit. We use a function to deposit. So we're using the input output. Might be a bit hard for you to understand now, but for now, just understand that we're doing that to just read what the user has inputted. And then after doing that, we're going to now call the deposit function and add that amount that we've done. So we're going to do the same with the other options. So first we have deposit, and the other option is withdraw. So instead of deposit, we're just changing it to withdraw. I hope I'm doing the right thing. Okay. So this is going to be withdraw. And then option 3, I'm asking you now. This is a question for you. It's pretty much simple. What are we going to do for option 3? But before we do that, in option 3, we want to display. So look at the display function. Look at all these functions. The deposit function, the withdraw function, and then the display function. So what are we going to do here? What are we writing here? What are you writing here? I'll give you a clue. We're going to first call the client. So we're going to be like client, like that.
Client.display.
Correct. Thank you. I don't know why it's not. All right. I don't know why it's giving like a funny thing here. But this is how it's supposed to be. I don't know what this is. What? Huh? No method name display. Okay, let's check. Oh, there's a method called display. What did I do wrong here? deposit, client 1 deposit. Maybe I did something wrong. Oh, do you know what? Do you notice what is wrong in this first line? Aside for the fact that this one has to be a string, so aside for the fact that this one has to be a string, there is something wrong. I don't know if you notice. I forgot to make it mutable. Yo, I think I'm seeing your time, eh? Okay, I'm not deal with that and come back to you because I don't want to steal your time. But another thing I wanted to show you was here you can create a new file and let's call it client client.rs, and in client.rs you can take every code. So basically you can have many different files if you want to make everything more modular and more easy to fix if you want to make some changes. Then you can create another file like that. Save it here. By here, you have to specify that you're using. So it's going to be a module. So you're going to be using a module, basically, like we showed the example. And the name of that module is going to be client. So this is going to call this class. I mean, all this function and implementation from there. So you save it. And here, the changes that you have to make is like what I showed in the previous class. You make everything public. This one public. And so on and so forth. So all the functions also must be public. And you make it public as well. Public as well. And what else? So and when you go back here, just make sure everything's okay. Okay, save it. And when you get here, now you have to use it as a crate. You must now, instead of saying client new what, you say client, and then create client, create new, and so on and so forth. So that's how you use different files on the same file. I mean, on the same project. But I'm gonna remove this and I'm gonna deal with this problem and come back to you. Okay, that's it for tonight. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why I went wrong, but I'm gonna try to figure it out because everything seems okay.
I think the problem might be we declared U32 inside the account number struct, you know, but then we have not set a proper new method to accept a build client.
Account number struct, and you mean when you create a new, because you don't accept, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kinda.
I'll figure out what's the problem.
Okay.
It's here. I did not return anything. Oh, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think that happens sometimes. I remember, as you are lucky right now, because when we are coding, we see like it's easy for us to debug. But when I started coding in Java in high school,
Yeah.
like a comma, like I was not getting any error message for missing a comma. Like now you can see that you miss a comma.
Yeah.
So it take me like long time to just figure out that I missed out a comma. So this was the problem. I had to return client. I
Yes.
did not return client. Oh my goodness. Stupid error. Very stupid error. Okay, it's taking long. So it's just working with something that does not exist. You cannot find it. But let me remove this thing. Let me delete it. Not client. Yeah, I can delete this one. Wait. Before I delete,
Yeah, please.
I'm in the
Don't
wrong place.
delete right now. Let's give it some time.
Yeah. So strat client. Client, return client, domain. All right. Oh, it's taking long. Let me see if I can run it in the Rust online IDE. I don't think I can import. This thing, but let me try. Just do something here. Print. I just want to make sure that there's no infinite loop running somewhere. What? Why else? Print line. Okay. This one I can remove it. All right, so we are done. Cargo run. So let's display. Let's see. Let's display and see what's going to show. Unused import. Whether not use. Oh, you want to just IO. Okay, so let me cancel this. Clear the whole thing. And now let's run. Display. It shows the account number. Client name is James. The balance is still 0. So now deposit. I put 20,000. And then deposit 20,000. New balance is 20,000. When I deposit, I press 1 again. 5,000. Then deposit 5,000. The new balance is 25,000. So I play. Okay, now let me withdraw. 10,000. 10,000. So we drew 10,000. Okay, so okay. And then display again. Okay, account number, client's name, James, balance 15,000. And then 4. Yeah, it works. And let me quickly, if you still have time, okay, for the next 2 minutes, I'm just going to show you what I was showing you. I'm not going to copy all this. I'm going to cut it actually. I cut all this and then paste it here. Then save. And then I go here. I say mode client. So let me get errors on purpose. Let me get some errors on purpose. Let me run this. Clear. Cargo run. You see that the use of undeclared client. So you cannot find client. So in order to do that, I have to use the crate here because it's not finding it. So I use the crate. Start client here. And then here, yes. It's not public, eh? So it's not. You see the next error I'm gonna get. So here's telling you that it's private. Private. So what you need to do now is change everything here to public. So public. And then also here, public. And here also, I think you have to do it public. I'm not sure, but we'll see. I think also all these things also you have to make it public. But I'm just gonna skip it. I want to get an error. So public. Yeah. So now let's go back. Okay, it's work. So yeah, we sorted. So now you understand how to create different files using the same project to make sense. All right. Yeah, thanks you. I know I took extra of your time, but thank you for joining me tonight. So for next week, when you're free in the weekend, go through this class. Let me just send you the link. Cyphering Abstract. Sign up here, go to this link here, and you see a lot of courses, a lot of Web3 courses there. And there's actually a course I also want to go through. The chain link is also one that I'll go through, because you can also use chain link with Stellar. But but the aim is for you to go through just 2 hours of Rust. That's the homework that I'm giving you.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a Rust course, a 4 hours Rust course. If you can, just do 2 hours, just for you to now learn Rust from a different way of, from a different person. And maybe that's going to solidify what you learned so far.
Okay.
And next week we'll go back to smart contract next week. All right, thank you so much, Regina.
Thank you too.
Have an amazing rest of the week. I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.